also thank you, Mr. Wars, for taking the time also to meet with me earlier this week. I share many of the concerns of different committee members about us kind of putting the cart before the horse. And in one regard, it is the whole issue of independence of the Fed. And I know you have made commitments both in your testimony and here today with us in the process of watching the president try to fire Chairman Powell as well as Governor Lisa Cook. It really raises a lot of red flags for us. Even Justice Kavanaugh said that no president has fired a sitting governor in the 112-year history of the Fed, which was structured to be independent of day-to-day politics, and that it would weaken, if not shatter, the independence of the Federal Reserve. There are a lot of questions here today as well about both ethics and whether or not all the paperwork is in, and even Senator Warren's question about, selling of the assets and whether they will be transparent is something that's important, again, to ensure confidence. And so I shared some of those concerns with you in person when we met, and I share them here for the record. I did have a question. I want to focus on AI, but I did have a question beforehand that I wanted to clarify. You mentioned your desire for reform as well as regime change at the Fed. Could you just clarify, you didn't mean removing the regional bank presidents whose 5-year terms were just restated and re-upped in December?
Senator, I meant policy regime change.
Got it. So for the record, we're not looking at regime change for those 12 board presidents. I want to jump to AI because it's probably one of the number one issues that I hear about in my state. I'm former Secretary of Labor in Delaware. This is something that I asked Chair Powell when he was here as well about. A lot has happened in a year. And one of the things you have characterized this as the most productivity enhancing wave of our lifetimes, past, present, and future. You have described it as structurally disinflationary, and that central bankers must make a bet. I'm in the camp with Senator Kennedy. I'm concerned about us making a bet on something that we know. You've said it, Chairman Powell said it. We don't have the data to even understand yet. And so my first question is, what happens for policy if that surge doesn't materialize as expected?
Yeah. So, Senator, I enjoyed our discussion. I think the essential elements of a new policy for the Federal Reserve is to get access to better data and to dig deeper into the productivity possibilities that can come out of this new investment wave. Today we call it artificial intelligence. 2 years from now we're going to call it business CapEx, and 3 years from now we're going to call it just ordinary business. I think it has two important effects on the conduct of policy. I don't claim to have perfect knowledge of how any of these are going to go, but I do have an intuition the pace of change is accelerating. I'm sorry, Senator, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how much of your view on interest rates depends on those productivity gains showing up quickly?
Yeah, so I think it has two elements. One is the increase in capital expenditures to build data centers and the rest. That will have an effect on demand. That will increase demand. My guess is a few tenths of 1%. But on the supply side of the economy, to increase the potential output of the economy, that could be considerably bigger. We don't know that. We can't bank on that. But considerable work needs to be done by the Federal Reserve in evaluating this productivity wave. As I said before, monetary policy works with long and variable lags. So you have to make some informed judgments. And unlike other people in office, if the judgments are wrong, you've got to call the flag on yourself and correct them.
Well, I think there's been a lot of conversation here about concerns that in your record, in your history, you have been hawkish on inflation rates and keeping them low. And now we're looking at AI. What I don't want to see is us use AI as an excuse.
Yes.
For making good policy. Too much depends on it. Too many families' lives depend on it. And in our conversation, I also talked about the fact that I know Wall Street is going to be okay, but who we're concerned about as well is Main Street.
Yeah.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kramer, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.